Hello again, everyone, and welcome to this video. Today we're going to look at credit problems, and this is part one. There's going to be two parts to this video. I have a few examples I want to get through, so I thought it'd be better to break it up and make it smaller. Let's get right into things. When you pay for something with money from a bank or company, you are using credit. Another way of saying that, when you're paying for something by not using your own money, you're using credit. There are many forms of credit. There are payday loans, which have high interest rates. There are credit cards, which also have high interest rates. There are loans and lines of credit, which kind of have medium to lower interest rates. And there's mortgages, which right now have very low interest rates, but in the past they've had high interest rates. Remember that with credit cards are very convenient, but you want to make sure you pay them off every month so you make sure you don't have any interest charges. If you're going to have longer term debt, that's when you're getting into loans or lines of credit. And then I mentioned mortgage again. Remember, a mortgage is something you want to get into when you're looking at real estate. A payday loan, which you can see I'm kind of avoiding there, that's something you would like to avoid as well. That's when you need, when you're kind of down on your luck, maybe you don't have as much money as you want right now, and then you're not able to get money through a credit card or through a bank. Then there's another way of getting money, and it's through a payday loan. Let's get right into examples. There's nothing new math-wise. We're just going to have to look at all the different contexts, and hopefully we can process what we need to calculate. So, Nick wants to be debt-free in 5 years. Or Nikki, I'm sorry. She has two credit cards in which she makes monthly payments. Card A has a balance of $2,436.98 and an interest rate of 18.5% compounded daily. Card B has a balance of $3,043.26 and an interest rate of 19% compounded daily. Nikki has qualified for a line of credit at her bank with an interest rate of 9.6% compounded monthly and a credit limit of $6,000. She plans to pay off both credit card balances by borrowing the money from her line of credit. How much interest will she save? Okay, so this is an example of consolidating debt. So consolidating debt. When you consolidate debt, you pay off debt with high interest with a different form of debt with low interest or different form of credit. So you can see that these are high interest rates and that Nikki knows she doesn't want to be paying these off over the long term. So she was able to get a line of credit with a much lower interest rate. So she's still going to be in debt, but she'll be paying less interest, which means she'll be saving money debt-wise in the end. Okay, so this question actually asks, how much interest will she save? In order to answer that question, we're going to have to figure out how much would it cost Nikki to pay off the debt as is, so paying off the credit cards, monthly, and then compare it to what it would cost her to pay off this debt with the consolidation. So I guess we should get right into it. Card A. And hopefully I have enough room. I have another screen ready if I need more room. But we're dealing with credit cards, so once again, we can get right into our graphing calculator, or that's what we're using in this class, whatever, a TVM, time value money calculator. All right, so the interest for credit card A is 18.5%. The present value, that's what she owes, so that's $2,436.98. The payment. It doesn't say the payment, so I guess we're going to have to figure that out. It does tell us, though, up here that it's monthly payments, so I know that's 12. I kind of skipped future value. Remember, our intention is to pay it off, so it's going to make it 0. And compounds per year, it says compounded daily, so 365. All right, so we have periods and our end value, the total amount of payments, empty. So if they don't give you the payment, that means they're going to make you solve for it. That means we technically know the end value. Once again, the end value is your payment frequency per year times time. So that would be 12 times, and then she says here she wants to be debt-free in 5 years. So 12 times 5, or 60. Okay, and then with that, we can then figure out our payment. Okay, so you plug all that into your calculator, and you will get $62.73. So that'll be the monthly payment that Nikki would have to use or to pay off per month in order to pay this off. So her cost would end up being, she's making 60 payments of $62.73 So that'd be $3,763.80. Okay, so that's how much paying off that debt would cost with the credit card. So you can see she's paying an additional $1,200 or $1,300. That's no good. Okay, let's do the second one. I'll do that one in red. Once again, you have to wait for me to write this out. Okay, so card B. And you know what? I'm just going to really quickly strike through card A. We know we've dealt with that one. Card B. Interest rate, 19%. Present value, she owes $3,043.26. Payment isn't stated, so we're going to have to figure that out. Future value will be 0 because I want to pay this off. Payments per year, again, it's monthly payments. And again, it says that right there. Compounds per year, it says daily, so 365 again. Okay, so plug all of that in and I have to figure out the end value still. So the end value is going to be the exact same. It's monthly payments for 5 years, so once again, it'll be 60. Now we can figure out the payment. Once I plug all this in, it'd be $79.19. Okay, now let's figure out the cost for card B. So the cost, we're going to make 60 payments of $79.19. I get $4,751.40. So once again, you can see that now this time she's paying an extra $1,700. So she's losing a lot of money due to interest. So that's why she wants to get out of these credit cards and get into something with a smaller interest rate. So I guess before I move on, the total cost of going with the credit cards would be these two amounts added up. Okay, and then I get that's $8,515.20. Okay, so roughly you can see if I look up here, it's roughly $5,500, but she's paying $8,500, so she's paying like $3,000 in debt. That's a lot of debt. You can see why Nikki wants out of this. Okay, so now what we're going to do on the next screen is you're going to see we're going to actually do the consolidation calculation. Okay, so up here you can see I still have our question if we need to refer back, but now let's get into this consolidation. So when we consolidate, we need to actually figure out, first of all, how much does she need to pay off? So that's going to be the $2,436.98 plus the $3,043.26, and that ends up being $5,480.24. Okay, so that's what she's going to put on this line of credit. She's going to put that value on there. Once she does that, she'll have her credit cards paid off, and then she'll be happy to be done with that debt. So our line of credit, I'll place it down here. I don't know how much room I have. I'm going to need. So the line of credit, once again, she's going to be making monthly payments. Now, if you're wondering where does it say that, up here she's saying she's with monthly payments, and typically, you know, line of credits, typically people do pay things off monthly, but you can pay them off lump sum as well. All right, back to this. Okay, the interest rate. Well, the new interest rate is 9.6%. Much lower. The present value, what she owes. Well, she paid off the two credit cards, and now she owes this much. Payment, we don't know yet. Future value, she's going to pay it off, so 0. Payments per year, 12. And the compounds, it says here, compounded monthly. Now, another thing I kind of glossed over is that in this question, it says there's a credit limit of $6,000. What that means is Nikki can't borrow more than $6,000. So she can borrow up to $6,000. And you can see our value here is just under it, so she's fine with that. Okay, so that is, we've set up the line of credit. The end value is going to be the exact same thing. There's 12 payments a year times 5 years, so 60 payments. Okay, so her new payment will be $115.36. All right, now let's see what the cost for paying all of that off would be. And if you recall, she was paying like $63 and $80 basically in the other way, so that was whatever, $140, $150 per month. Now she's only paying $115 a month, so she's saving. She has a little bit more money every month for her budget, so that'd be great too. So anyway, back to this. She's going to make 60 payments of $115.36. What does that end up being? It ends up being $6,921.60. So you can see that there's a lot less interest paid. Previously, she paid $8,500. Now she's paying $7,000 basically. So she's going to save $1,500 in debt. And that's what we're supposed to do here with the last part, is how much interest will she save? So interest saved, well, do it officially. I was just using rough numbers there. In the first situation, she ended up paying $8,515.20. And now she's paying $6,921.60. And so she ends up saving $1,593.60. So that's even better than what my rough estimate was. That's basically $1,600. So this is a great way to go. Consolidating debt, once again, that's when you try to pay off your debt with high interest rates by using some credit with low interest rate. So you have to qualify for a loan or a line of credit to do that. And if you can, it's a great way to save money if you get into some debt issues. All right, example 2. Bree had a balance of $1,004.36 on her credit card when she lost her job. The interest rate for the credit card is 19.95%, compounded monthly. Bree can only afford to pay the minimum payment each month, which is 3% of the balance or $15, whichever is greater. Part A, how long will it take Bree to pay off her credit card? Okay, so to pay off her credit card, we know that that's going to be monthly payments, but what they mention here, without being very specific, is that what is this monthly payment? So you can see here that the monthly payment is 3% of the balance or $15. So the first thing we have to actually check out is which one will it be? Will it be the 3% or the 15? It's always whichever is greater. So they always want the larger amount. So let's do that real quick. I'll stick with yellow. Payment. So the way you do this is you take whatever your debt is. So that's the $1,004.36, and we're going to multiply it by 3%, so 0.03. Okay, let's see what we get. Well, we get $30.13. Now, the question becomes, which is larger, $30 or the $15? Well, we know that $30 is larger than $15. So this will end up being our payment. Okay, so now for part A, it says, how long will it take Bree to pay off the credit card? Well, now we can figure that out. So NIPV, PMT, FV, PY, CY. So right away, I know my payment is $30.13. My present value. Now this is something I was lazy on in that last section. I'm just rethinking. Remember, what you owe, you want to put a negative in there. So $1,004.36. If you weren't getting the right values, that would be why, because Mr. Troy, that was bad by me. I forgot my negative sign. Anyway, my interest rate, 19.95. Future value will be 0. Payments per year, well, it's a credit card, so you're on schedule to pay 12 per year. And what was the compounds per year? Oh, it says here compounded monthly. Okay, so we have everything but the end value, the amount of payments we'll need. If you plug this in, you'll get 48.99. So we'll round that up to 49 payments. So how long will it take to actually pay off? So we need 48.99 payments, which is roughly 40, well, is not roughly, it is 49 months. So the way that works, I'm just going to circle this up, that you're making 48 full payments and then one more payment at 0.99 of a regular payment. So that would mean 49 payments. Okay, so 49 payments and their monthly payments of 49 months. B, how much will she pay back altogether, and how much of this will be interest? Okay, so how much is she going to pay back altogether? So to figure that out, and I'll write that as cost, once again, it's going to be our payments. So our $30.13 times the amount of payments, which would be 49. And sorry, I put a little kind of tick mark there. What would that equal? $1,476.37. And then I'm going to call this C, even though it's not really C. So this would be C. How much of this will be interest? Okay, remember interest is what you had to actually pay back minus what you borrowed. Whoa, I'm having trouble with my pen all of a sudden. So what did I pay back? I paid this amount back, what we just found. And how much did Bree initially borrow? Remember, she only borrowed $1,000 really. So the difference between those will be your interest, and that is $472.01. Okay, there we go. So that's the first two examples I'm going to cover with credit. I have 3 to 4 more. We'll see what I end up covering, but those will be in follow-up videos. All right, have a great night, everybody.